Well, hi again, everyone. I'm Mark Ernay, your play-by-play voice for the New York Boulders baseball team, and this is the premiere edition of Talkin' Boulders Baseball 2024. You can see the fella on my left, a familiar face. It is a familiar name, too, for Boulders fans who go back just a few years. Justin Topa of the Minnesota Twins and a former Boulder, LIU. Well, back then they were the Blackbirds, but now the LIU Sharks. Mr. Topa, it's great to see you. It's been too long.
Definitely has. This is awesome. I appreciate you having me back on.
All right, so the reason for this chit chat, as we were talking before we started recording, is number one, you've got the anniversary of your first major league win coming up next week. We'll get to that. But bigger, the team you're on now, Minnesota Twins, coming in to play the Yankees the first week in June, and then they'll be back the end of July to play the Mets. So you were going to have, or may still have, at least one trip, but you were going to have two. Unfortunately, you've been on the injured list since the start of the regular season. Why don't you catch everybody up on what's happening physically with you?
Yeah, it's just been an ongoing knee issue. It's been around for a couple of years, and unfortunately, at the start of spring training this year, kind of flared up and just progressively got worse. Kind of like a tendinosis thing that ended up turning into a partial tear in the tendon. So, yeah, unfortunately, like you said, would have loved to be back there at least for the Yankee series. Hopefully for the Mets series, but yeah, hopefully a couple more weeks, just taking it one day at a time. And I think now that we've locked in the right protocol and got some injections and stuff in there, that should help, and hopefully only upward from here.
Well, how are you feeling is the most important question.
No, feeling good overall. Feeling good. I feel like every day it's getting better. Gonna start throwing here in a couple days. Just some half kneeling stuff, so it'll make me feel like a baseball player again. but uh, but no, overall feeling good. Arm feels great. Just kind of excited to get the ball rolling here and start to do a little more activity once I get out of this brace here in a few days.
Well, I know the Boulders family is more than anxious to see you back on the field. Let's very briefly, for the uninitiated, take you back to your college days at LIU 2010, 2011, a lost year 2012 as you were rehabbing from a Tommy John surgery. You got drafted anyway in 2012, the 33rd round by the Cincinnati Reds. And if my notes are correct, that all came about because of a bullpen session a scout saw you throw for LIU.
Yeah. I like you said, I was rehabbing from Tommy John. I didn't pitch that year, but my throwing program kind of overlapped with the season, so I was throwing bullpens pretty much from the start of the season that year, with anticipation to throw in summer ball that year. I ended up playing for the Madison Mallards in the Northwoods League. But yeah, it kind of lined up that I was throwing bullpens on Fridays during that season, and I don't know if anybody remembers the name. Pat Light was a big New Jersey prospect coming out of Monmouth that year, and Pat ended up being a supplemental first rounder by the Red Sox, I believe. And then he actually played with the Twins for a little bit. I played with him briefly in the minor leagues in Pittsburgh. We were in spring training together for one spring training, but he was pitching that day, and big prospect in the Northeast, so it was pretty much everybody. Every team had at least one or two scouts there, and I, like I said, just happened to be throwing a bullpen that day prior to the game, and a bunch of scouts and cross checkers and advanced pro scouting guys were there, and yeah, the Reds cross checker had saw me throw, and yeah, next thing you knew, it was fast forward, and the draft was going on, and I was eating lunch at my now wife's parents' house, and all of a sudden my phone starts going crazy, like what just happened? And ended up getting picked by the Reds. Didn't sign, but yeah, it was a very cool experience. It was, like you said, from going, it's a random bullpen, right? Like just timed up kind of perfect in that sense. And yeah, it was a cool experience.
So then you wind up going back to school for 2013, and you get drafted that spring by the Pirates in the 17th round. So you made a pretty big leap from 33rd to 17th. What was that experience like?
Yeah, obviously going into that season, being healthy, that was my biggest thing is, being healthy, being able to throw the whole year and kind of get my name back out there. Obviously getting drafted, there was a little chatter once the season started. Kind of had an idea that if all goes well, staying healthy wise, and there might be an opportunity to get drafted again. And yeah, it was pretty cool experience. To be honest, the Pirates were one of the teams I didn't really talk to in the whole process. I was really close with the area scout for Texas at the time. He was always coming in, so had a bunch of meetings with him, and there was a handful of other teams that throughout the season and even that fall prior that were in contact. So I kind of had an idea, and then go through the season. You have your ups and downs, and I ended up going to that was actually the only pre-draft workout I went to was Pittsburgh. But other than that, I didn't have any other communication with them. And yeah, so then just fast forward to draft day, kind of had an idea. Everybody tells you you're gonna go into this round or that round or whatever it is, but kind of just went into it with an open mind, and I got the phone call, drafted by Pittsburgh, and just at the time was a very cool experience. Not far from home, growing up in upstate New York, in Pittsburgh, being a team with a bunch of history, and at the time, when Kutch was coming up, and they had Starling Marte and Gregory Polanco and all these guys, Garrett Cole, all these guys that were really solidifying themselves as big leaguers. It was a cool atmosphere to go to right away after college, and yeah, it's something that a lot of my closest friends now are guys that were drafted that year and who I played with in Pittsburgh. So it's cool how that kind of kickstarted everything.
So you spent 2013, 14 with the Pirates organization. 15 was unfortunately another lost year for you, recovering from another Tommy John surgery, if memory serves, and then 2016 with them. And you wind up with the Boulders in 2017. And I remember you came out like a shot from a cannon. If I remember correctly, you won your first 6 decisions, was it? And I think you wound up going 14-3 in the regular season.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Prior to that, getting released by the Pirates in 2017 spring training, um, I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing baseball. It was kind of one of those things where, like you said, I had rehabbed another elbow surgery, second Tommy John surgery, so I hadn't thrown the previous year and or a little bit at the end of the year, but pretty much a lost 2 seasons prior, and I was kind of just over the business side and over the game, and after talking with family and friends, it was like, what, let's give it one more shot. Just did all that rehab, 18 months or so. Might as well go have some fun, just try to, play again and be healthy again and just see what happens. And but for me, it was, Rockland was a place that's very close to home. Growing up in Binghamton, so I was like, all right, if I'm going to play one more time, like, might as well be close in case family wants to come see. And it's funny, the backstory I still tell Skip Jamie Keefe to this day, that the way I got to Rockland was a former teammate of mine, Michael Francoso, who also played in Rockland. But we were drafted together in Pittsburgh, and he was the first guy I met in pro ball. And when I had gotten released, he had shot me a text and was like, "Hey, I'm playing in Rockland, and we're looking for pitching. If you're still interested in playing, just let me know. I'll pass you your phone number to Jamie and see what happens." And I tell him to this day that I was hoping he just forgot about it and wasn't going to call. Kind of writing on the wall, let the game let the game decide that I'm done type thing. And but Jamie called and had a great conversation with him, probably for a half hour or so. And then that decision was made that I was going to go to Rockland. And yeah, it was just from the get go. It was. I remember opening day that I forget. I feel like we just went out from day one and just kind of dominated that whole team, top to bottom. Everybody was. It was a great group. From the get go, it seemed like everybody blended well together, and we were having a lot of fun. On and off the field, and we were winning a bunch of games. So it was a kind of a culmination. Everything kind of happened for a reason at that point, and was healthy again, and felt great. And yeah, it was very cool. And went to the All-Star game, got to represent Rockland with. Let me see if I can remember the guys that went that year. I think it was me, Marcus Solbach, Joe Maloney, Dylan Tice, and I want to say, yeah, Cody Regis.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of
Mm-hmm.
guys. Yeah, I think that was the group that we all went. So, that tells you right away that team was kind of loaded. We had
Yeah.
five. five guys or so that went to the All-Star game. But yeah, it was a very cool experience. Something I wouldn't trade for the world. I tell people to this day that was the most fun I ever had in a season. It kind of got the fire going again, I think, for me. To just go out and have fun again, not worry about the politics of baseball or professional baseball, and
Yeah.
worry about getting called up, sent down. Having that kind of target on your back. It was like, hey, go out, have some fun, and win. So from day one, Jamie and the staff really welcomed everybody with open arms, and it was fun from the get go.
And interestingly, it kind of got you back on the Rangers' radar, right? Because you were only with the Boulders for, I think, maybe a few games, not even a handful. I think it was 4 games, maybe 3 starts in 18 before they came and swooped you up. They took you away from us.
Yeah, yeah. I'd thrown in a like a free agent workout type thing that off season for the Rangers. I flew out to Arizona and threw for them there, and nothing really materialized at first. And then, I think the decision right away was if I was going to keep playing, I knew I was going to go back to Rockland. So, talked to Skip, and we got that whole thing set up. And right away, I actually, if I can remember, I don't know if it was opening day or, the first series of the year, I ended up getting a blister on my middle finger. I ended up missing 4 or 5 starts, just like a random. I'm sure Lori's still there. Lori
Yeah,
can
she
can
is.
attest to that. So we were trying to find all the concoctions, pickle juice, and all this stuff to try to fix this blister. But so I missed a couple starts, but yeah, then came back, and I vividly remember throwing a bullpen, and it was a terrible bullpen. It was one of the first bullpens back before my next start, and everything felt terrible. Like I couldn't execute anything. Like it just a culmination of just a bad day, right? And I was talking to Ari Kaufman was on the team, and I was like, Ari, dude, this was terrible. Like this is the worst bullpen I think I ever threw in my life. And whatever, we're talking, we do some conditioning, we go up to the clubhouse, and Skip calls a team meeting, and that's when he said that I was getting picked up by the Rangers. I was like, I'll talk about two completely different scenarios. I thought I was the worst baseball player in the world, and then next thing you know, it was the Rangers were calling. So yeah, it was the year and a half I spent in Rockland were unbelievable. Like I said, a lot of those guys I still talk to every once in a while. A couple guys live somewhat close to, and see every once in a while. But yeah, just the culmination of that year and a half was really cool.
So you get to the Rangers. I know you were in their system for the bulk of the 2018, whatever was left of that season. Then you became a free agent in the offseason and wound up signing with the Brewers the following winter. So that was, I guess, March of 19. And then let's fast forward about a year and a half. September 1, you get called up, and there you are making your major league debut finally with the Brewers in Milwaukee, I think it was, against the Tigers. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Obviously, the COVID year for everybody, not just baseball players, but it was just a weird season. Like I said, things get shut down in spring training. Go home, had to build a mound in my backyard, and get a couple guys to come over and and work out, stay in shape. And I ended up getting a call to be added to the alternate site. I guess that would have been like end of July. So I drive out to Wisconsin, and I'm at the alternate site for just pretty much a month. Actually, I think it was like August 31st. I ended up getting called up, and then ironically, it was against Pittsburgh. It was that first game in the big leagues. I didn't pitch, but so it was cool because one of my closest friends at the time was playing for Pittsburgh, so I got to see him. Kind of my first day in the big leagues. But yeah, pitching the next day against the Tigers. Very surreal moment from the get go. Obviously, just like the journey up to that point was a lot of turns and winding roads, but it was something I'll never forget. Obviously, it would have been even better if family and friends were able to be there, but no fans in the stands. So that was a little weird, just the echoing of music and stuff in the stadium. But yeah, it was a really cool day. Obviously, you anytime the bullpen phone rings, you kind of get the heart racing a little bit, and then when your name's called, it's kind of just one thing after another. Kind of black out a little bit, but it was really cool. Facing guys that actually one of my teammates now, Willie Castro, was my first strikeout in the big leagues. So So faced Willie when he was with the Tigers, and then faced Miguel Cabrera to start the next inning. So it was from the get go, I was like, all right, this is big league baseball, and something I'll never forget.
So you got half a dozen appearances, if the stats here are correct, the remainder of 2020 in the regular season. Got to face the Dodgers, I think, in one of the wild card rounds in the playoffs, and they wind up winning the World Series. 2021, mid August into early September, a handful of appearances with the Brewers. September call up in 2022. And then the Topa tale takes another turn when the Brewers traded you in January of last year, 2023, to the Seattle Mariners. And what were you thinking when you got that phone call?
It was actually during our baby shower, which was kind of funny, ironically. We were back home in Binghamton. We were doing my side of the family. We were doing a little baby shower, and um, uh, funny enough, we had just opened gifts and got a bunch of Milwaukee Brewers onesies.
Oh,
And then I looked down, and my phone's ringing, and I was like, I don't have that number, so I just whatever, ignore it. And then get a text from our now the net. It was the assistant, now it's the GM, Matt Arnold, and he was like, "Hey, give me a call when you get a second." I look at my wife, and I was like, "Something might be happening here." Kind of going into that offseason, I kind of knew that there might be something going on, whether it be trade or DFA, because the way the offseason was going, we were picking up a lot of relievers, and obviously I'd been injured a little bit the year before. I had a flexor surgery that I was coming back from, so I kind of knew like the writing was on the wall a little bit. But yeah, then when he said you got traded to Seattle, obviously talking to him and thanking him and the staff for everything, the past couple of years prior to that, and but just excited because I at the time and even now, like you just hear about the Mariners and their pitching lab, whatever you want to call it. It seemed to bring guys in that were either fighting injuries or hadn't really had much success at the big league level, and kind of can churn guys out and help them kind of revitalize their career in a sense. So from the get go, talking to their GM, Justin Hollander, Jerry Dipoto, it was really kind of a welcoming experience. It was talking to those guys, the plan that they kind of had, and then going to spring training. Ironically, I had a handful of buddies that were in the organization, so it was kind of an easy transition right when it happened. But it was just very funny, the middle of the baby shower to get traded. But no, it was awesome being there. Had a great year last year. Really like everybody that is in that organization, the staff, players, everybody from top to bottom were awesome, and welcomed us, the whole family, with open arms. And yeah, it kind of revitalized things. It kind of got me into the position I am today, and can't thank them enough for that.
well, the pitching lab obviously worked because you had, by all accounts, and every statistical measure, you were their number one relief pitcher last year. 75 games, um, a WAR higher than anybody else in the bullpen, behind only three of their starters. I mean, you really were, revitalized is I think the word you used. Do you recall, Justin, anything specific clicking either in your head or while you're on the mound that you go, oh wow, now I'm feeling it?
I think it started in spring training. It was one of our first meetings. They were pretty simplistic. I hate to say that they kind of like dumbed things down, but in a sense they did. It was like, we have our one-on-one meetings every spring, and kind of expectations, and where they see the role or what have you going that year. And obviously being new to the organization, it was the first time I met the majority of the pitching development staff. So kind of going into that with an open mind, and from the get go, is like, hey, you do this really well. We think that you should do this more, and kind of just see what happens, type thing. And I learned a new pitch. I learned a cutter that off season, and going into spring training, it was kind of up in the air as a coin flip if that was going to be a good pitch or not for me. I Going in, I expected that to be a decent, percentage wise pitch that I would use a lot to lefties. But like I said, in spring training, it was kind of like, hey, let's just see what happens. Let's focus on this. And pretty much right away, it was like, yeah, all right, let's just get ahead, stay ahead, and get people out. And like I said, I hate to say it was very simple, because baseball is not a simple game at all. But I think that mindset and that, them instilling that mindset into guys is what how they're so successful with bringing guys in and kind of turning guys out and helping guys in their careers.
All right, let's fast forward. You make your first appearance of the season in, I believe, the Mariners' 10th game of the year. So that was probably the middle of April. And then, because the anniversary is coming up in a little more than a week, May 31st, 2023, in relief for the Mariners, at home against the team you grew up rooting for, interestingly enough, the Yankees, you get your first win. And I cannot even imagine what that was like for you. So please tell us.
Yeah, it was just looking forward to that series. I had thrown against the Yankees when I was in Milwaukee once in 2022. And just going into that year, I knew that there was an opportunity at some point to, you know, I was pitching in pretty leverage innings, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, tenth. I was pretty much anywhere, but I knew that there was going to be an opportunity at some point in that series. And like you said, the team I grew up, anytime you play a team you grew up and guys that obviously respect across the field, it's pretty cool. So going into that series, I had some family in town. Um, a bunch of family came to New York when we went back that year or last year, but yeah, it was kind of surreal. I knew where we were in the lineup a little bit. I kind of had an idea, you know, going into extra innings there. We were tied 0-0 going into the 10th. And I jokingly said that I was like the 10th inning guy for the Mariners because I threw in so many 10th inning games that year. So, going in there, obviously starting with a runner on second base. Can't remember it in detail, but I know that there was a ground ball error at some point, and then a walk mixed in there and a fielder's choice. But yeah, so it was like bases loaded with two outs and facing a lefty who Frenchie Cordero I hadn't faced before, I don't believe, and in years past I didn't really have great stats against lefties, which is why I kind of started to learn the cutter was to get something in on lefties and kind of open up that repertoire to be able to go other avenues, whether it be sinker, changeup, slider. But yeah, I knew that, right away I just had to attack him. I can't walk in a run, bases loaded, two outs in the 10th, can't walk in a run. So kind of just hammered him with some cutters in, sinkers, and then ended up getting the strikeout there. And I think that I have a picture of that inning. I kind of showed a little more emotion than I think I ever have. And I have that picture in our basement back home, but it was kind of just a culmination of a lot of things, right? Like having success in that moment, but just like thinking back of like the injuries and the path to get there and have some success early in the season that year. It was just a cool experience, and then the icing on top was it being against the team that I grew up rooting for. So yeah, just going in the dugout and kind of got chills sitting there and knowing that there's an opportunity here that, especially with who we had up. I know, I believe we pinch ran. I think Caballero pinch ran at second base, so I knew we had a speed guy at second base, and ironically, Cal Raleigh was up, one of my good buddies. It's funny, his uncle owns the facility that I grew up working out at
Wow.
in elementary school, middle school, so his cousin or his uncle Matt I've known for pretty much my entire life, and so it was very ironic that Cal was up,
Mm.
and base hit to right field, and kind of right when he hit it, I just got chills, just thinking about. I knew I was going to get the win there, and but just an unbelievable game. I think that whole game was from start to finish. It was just like a roller coaster, right? Even though it was a 0-0 game, it was like there was spots for both sides, early in the game, middle of the game, in the ninth, where like, okay, one swing in the back could change this, and came out on top 1-0. So it was really cool. Getting into the clubhouse after, and once rumor starts to get around that it was a first of anything for somebody, it especially there we kind of did a little beer shower, which turns into a shower of pretty much anything you can think
Mm-hmm.
of, whether it be ketchup and ice cream and baby powder. So it was cool. It was just like I said, it was a culmination of a lot of emotions, and like growing up a Yankee fan and growing up Derek Jeter fan, being that the team that I rooted for being the first team I get a win against, it was pretty cool, very special.
What did you wind up doing with the game ball?
That game ball, I believe my dad has. Shoot, I might have it. I can't remember. I know that. So I got my first save, I believe the week before against the Astros,
Right.
and then so I think I might have given him the save ball, and then I think I kept the win ball. But either way, I have the lineup card at the house too. The team they were awesome. They framed it up, did a little map thing and a little plaque.
Nice.
So I got that hanging on the wall, and I believe I think I have it in the basement. I got a lot of stuff that it just gets piled away.
Yeah, yeah. It really is just amazing, this whole story, right? If So doesn't put you in touch with Jamie, if Jamie doesn't reach out, if you don't take the call, if if you don't grow up with Cal Raleigh's uncle, I mean, this is just the stuff that movies are made of, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely it gives me chills just thinking about it now. My whole family grew up Yankee fans. Dad was a big Yankee fan, big Don Mattingly fan. So just thinking about being a little kid and you're in the backyard thinking you're. I thought I was going to be the next Derek Jeter, but I couldn't hit, so that was an issue. But so that was kind of like the scenario that you kind of play in your mind, and my my mom was a huge Yankee fan. I know probably some of the Boulders fans, or at least the season ticket holders in host families, remember my mom. My mom unfortunately passed away in 2019,
Oh,
but
sorry.
so that was kind of that was one thing I was thinking about on the dugout when I was sitting there before Cal got the base hit. Was like, talk about a storybook ending here. Like this is cool. The first win is against the Yankees. I know my mom probably had a little help in pushing that ball against his barrel there. So it's cool to think about. It's for my family being there too. We had some family in town, and yeah, it was just a big celebration, obviously, and first of many, hopefully. So just gotta keep it rolling.
I was going to say, you mentioned a storybook ending, but hopefully that's just one little chapter in
Yeah,
what becomes a really long saga. I know things aren't great right now, but hopefully your knee is on the mend, and we're going to get to see you back on the mound at some point for the Twins. Again, selfishly, we're hoping it's when you guys come to town the end of July, but
definitely.
whenever it is, man, get healthy and continued success because you've given us a great story so far.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully that's the case. Like we talked about before jumping on. I'm hoping it's around the All Star break, so it'll be nice to get back to New York and I know I had a bunch of family, friends, and stuff come to City Field last year, so a lot of Boulders fans as well. So it'll be really cool to get back to New York and throw again once this knee heals up. So looking forward to it.
And the team is on the road that week, so we will be out in force at City Field if you're there.
Perfect. Very cool. Very cool. I appreciate it.
Justin Topa, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this. It was really fun.
No problem at all. Anytime. I really appreciate it.
Friends, that is Justin Topa, the former Boulders right-hander, now with the Minnesota Twins. Of course, I'm Mark Renee, and this has been Talkin' Boulders
And I
Baseball.
believe, yeah, I think I have it in the basement. I got a lot of stuff that it just gets piled away.
Yeah, yeah. It really is just amazing, this whole story, right? If So doesn't put you in touch with Jamie, if Jamie doesn't reach out, if you don't take the call, if if you don't grow up with Cal Raleigh's uncle, I mean, this is just the stuff that movies are made of, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely it gives me chills just thinking about it now. My whole family grew up Yankee fans. Dad was a big Yankee fan, big Don Mattingly fan. So just thinking about being a little kid and you're in the backyard thinking you're. I thought I was going to be the next Derek Jeter, but I couldn't hit, so that was an issue. But so that was kind of like the scenario that you kind of play in your mind, and my my mom was a huge Yankee fan. I know probably some of the Boulders fans, or at least the season ticket holders in host families, remember my mom. My mom unfortunately passed away in 2019,
Oh,
but
sorry.
so that was kind of that was one thing I was thinking about on the dugout when I was sitting there before Cal got the base hit. Was like, talk about a storybook ending here. Like this is cool. The first win is against the Yankees. I know my mom probably had a little help in pushing that ball against his barrel there. So it's cool to think about. It's for my family being there too. We had some family in town, and yeah, it was just a big celebration, obviously, and first of many, hopefully. So just gotta keep it rolling.
I was going to say, you mentioned a storybook ending, but hopefully that's just one little chapter in
Yeah,
what becomes a really long saga. Um, I know things aren't great right now, but hopefully your knee is on the mend, and we're going to get to see you back on the mound at some point for the Twins. Again, selfishly, we're hoping it's when you guys come to town the end of July, but
definitely.
whenever it is, man, get healthy and continued success because you've given us a great story so far.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully that's the case. Like we talked about before jumping on. I'm hoping it's around the All-Star break, so it'll be nice to get back to New York and I know I had a bunch of family, friends, and stuff come to City Field last year, so a lot of Boulders fans as well. So it'll be really cool to get back to New York and throw again once this knee heals up. So looking forward to it.
And the team is on the road that week, so we will be out in force at City Field if you're there.
Perfect. Very cool. Very cool. I appreciate it.
Justin Topa, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this. It was really fun.
No problem at all. Anytime. I really appreciate it.
Friends, that is Justin Topa, the former Boulders right-hander, now with the Minnesota Twins. Of course, I'm Mark Renee, and this has been Talkin' Boulders Baseball.